We really don't understand what we're saying that have come into our language from all different sources. And like, for example, recently we heard in a meeting last week, I believe it was last week, that Mark got up. Is that right? He got up and he related his testimony, his version of what happened being incarcerated for a short period of time and how he got out. And he said that they had him sign a PR bond. Okay, how many of you know what a PR bond is? Some of you do. All right, personal recognizance bond. I had a friend over in Texarkana. She had heard this from somebody else. She gives me a call, all excited. She's a grandmother. She said, "Hey, I heard something that you're going to be really interested in." She said, a guy down in Florida recently walked into a case that he was just at the end of his rope. And he walked in and he was sitting in the peanut gallery and waiting for his name to be called. All right, and that was the fiction name. He did understand that. And he didn't really know exactly what he was going to say. He had a lot of things that were going through his mind. He was apprehensive. And when the name was called, he stood up without answering, without opening his mouth, and he walked forward into the bar, opened it up, and walked in. Now, what's for the record? If the court reporter is typing anything, all she or he can type is someone walked in to the court area, to the bar. Because there was nothing acknowledged yet about the name. The name was called, but they have to get our acknowledgement, verbal acknowledgement. Are you such and such a name? When he went forward, of course, the first question that came to him was, "Are you such and such a name?" And he paused, thought about it, raised his finger and pointed at the administrative arbitrator, the facilitator, the King's Bench, and he pointed and said, "I do not recognize you." Pointed to the court clerk, "I do not recognize you." Pointed to the attorneys, "I do not recognize you." Pointed to the court reporter, "I do not recognize you." Pointed to the bailiff and said, "I do not recognize you." Complete silence. And he turned around and he slowly walked out. And no one said a word. The whole courtroom was completely silent. What was he saying? Well, she read it to me from the Black's Law Dictionary, and I got excited and I went and confirmed it, because just because someone says something to me, I want to confirm it myself. So I went, I believed her, but I just wanted to see what it said. And I checked several different versions, the 5th edition, the 7th edition, and it took me to the word recognize, took me to the word recognizance. And to summarize the word recognizance means, by definition from the Black's Law Dictionary, it means that someone is contracting with the Crown in its judicial capacity. And so when he pointed his finger and said, "I do not recognize you," what was he saying? I do not contract with the Crown. 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 Now, who are these agents here? Who are these living souls that are hiding behind their corporate fiction capacity? And he's the only living soul in there. And what did he say when he said I? He said, I, who am I? I is a living soul. Because a fictitious plaintiff can't say I. A fictitious plaintiff can't say me. A fictitious plaintiff can't sign, can't walk, can't even sign a power of attorney to give to the plaintiff's attorney that's representing the fictitious plaintiff. Produce the power of attorney that's signed, giving you, Mr. Plaintiff Attorney, the authority, the power of attorney to represent the fictitious plaintiff. And some other things that just tie into this is, and to this day he hasn't heard anything. Where there is no contract, there is no case. 1938 Supreme Court, Erie Railroad versus Tompkins.